3.6, graphing lines. Okay, so guys, we're going to practice graphing today. Make sure all equations are in y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to take one quick second here and let's talk about y equals mx plus b. M is our slope. B is our y-intercept. And I also think of it as slope is how you move, and B is where you begin. And this one is on the y-axis. And as a reminder, the y-axis is the up and down axis. So in order to graph, the first thing you're going to do, we're going to fill these fill in the blank notes in. The first thing you're going to do is graph the B value on the y-axis. The coordinate will be 0, B. Then you're going to convert the slope, the m, into a fraction. The numerator, the top number, is the rise, or the number of spaces that you move up or down. So let's go back over here and recall our y over x, up and down, over, sideways. The denominator, or the bottom number, is the run, or the number of spaces that you move left or right. I generally only have you guys move right just to always make the top number be your positive or negative, just because of form. That's generally what we do, is we give the negative to the top number. From the y-intercept, you're going to count the number of spaces up if rise is positive, or down if rise is negative. Then move right based on the value of the x. And the reason I do this is I have you move up or down and to the right is because on a graph and in English we read left to right. So always consider like this is our English, this is our left to right. Numbers go left to right to get bigger, okay? So we're gonna look at our first graph, and I have my notes here with me just to make sure I do it correctly for you guys. And I'm going to do my first one in blue. So we have 2/3 x minus 2. And the first thing it asks us is the x-intercept. Well, I don't know what that is offhand, but I will tell you that that is where it crosses the x-axis. So I'm going to need to look up all this information for it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I always circle my y-intercept. And I usually find that first because it's the easiest thing. And that is 0, -2. So on the y-axis, the up and down axis, you're going to start at -2. Right there. You're going to start at -2. And then from there, the number in front of x, m is always, always, always the number in front of x, is 2/3. And as I told y'all last week, you're always going to draw your arrows to remind you how to move. You go up 2 and then over 3. And one of the things that I always tell my students is you want to keep on going as far as you can, because the more you graph, the more accurate you make your line. Now, I understand that this is going to be pretty difficult for those of you that are doing it online. If you can print it, it might really, really help, okay? But if it's not perfect, I do understand. Hence the reason that the more lines would really help. So then you're going to draw your line. And the big key is you always put arrows on the end, because that line goes on forever. That line goes on forever. So now we're going to look at our x-intercept right here, where it crosses the x-axis. And I see that right here. It crosses the x-axis at 3, 0. So a lot of information contained in this graph, a lot of information that we are looking at with each of these. So what I really recommend you do is pause the video and see if you can determine at least what the y-intercept and the slope are on the next graph. I am going to use all the same colors to plot them and graph them so that they kind of stay in a color coordination thing. So over here, the first thing I'm going to look for is my y-intercept. And as I told y'all, I always circle it. So I come over, oh, wait, there's nothing to circle. What is nothing? 0. Nothing is 0. So I'm going to draw my point right there, correct? And I know I have to draw little X's because it doesn't allow me to do a point. It formats it or something. So then I'm going to go up here. I'm going to change my color since I am color coding for y'all. And I'm going to look at my slope, and my slope is -2. Okay, but every whole number is always over a 1, because if we just went down and made a straight up and down line, we're killing Kyle. We don't want to kill Kyle. So this is down 2 over 1. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. And I plot all the points, because the more points you plot, the more accurate the line. And I always recommend that y'all draw all of the points. And again, like I said, I understand that this is way easier if you're not on a computer. So if you can print up at least some coordinate graphs, it might help. And there you go. So now we're going to look at our x-intercept. The x-intercept is, again, where it crosses the x-axis. So I'm going to go along here, and it's actually the same as the y-intercept. It is 0, 0, which is our origin. So your first assignment is going to have them all in y equals, but we're going to go ahead and do at least one example from the next little section, where you'll notice these are not already in y equals. So what we have to do before we even get started is put the equation into y equals, and we've been doing a lot of practicing on that. So if I want to get my y by itself, what do I need to get rid of? Everything by it. And what's by it is this x. So to get rid of x, I'm just going to subtract it. Now, can I put the 5 and the x together? Do they have the same last name? No, so they will stay just like this. So now I have it in y equals mx plus b, and I can find my y-intercept and my slope. So the first thing I'm going to do is look for my y-intercept, and I look for the number by itself, and I see that it is a 0, 5. They are on the y-axis, the up and down axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so there's my y-intercept. Now I have to go and put in my slope. So I'm going to look over here, and oh wait, there's just a negative in front of the x. So what is that number? Most of y'all are very good with that. It is a -1. So Kyle's going to go down, and every whole number is always over a 1. So from there we go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. So this is going to go a lot of little bitty points. And it might get a little old after a while. I get it, but the more points you do, the more accurate the line. Okay, so the more points you do, the more accurate the line. And then our last piece is, what is the x-intercept? Where does it cross the x-axis? So I'm going to come over here, and it crosses the x-axis at 5. So that one is 5, 0. And one thing I didn't put on here, which means I wouldn't help myself if I tried, is a point is x, y, while slope is y over x. So I did leave that off at the beginning, and I apologize. So these are the two that we are going to worry about for right now. I am going to go on ahead and do the next two. Because these might come across on your first assignment, and then we will do a couple of more practice questions or some of the rest of them later on. So the first thing I'm going to graph right here is x equals -5. Now, it can't be in y equals mx plus b when it doesn't have a y. And if you look back at your original slope notes with the big triangle on there, okay, I told you x equals a number is either 0 or undefined. So x equals a number means it crosses x at -5. So I'm going to go over here and, oh, well, that's -5. So no matter what anything is, x is always going to equal -5. X will equal -5 here, -5 here. X equals -5 here. So no matter what your problems are, x equals -5, which is actually a straight up and down line. Okay. So as a reminder, what happens to Colt, my dog, what happens to Kyle when you have a straight up and down line? He falls and dies, okay? So that is undefined. That is no slope we want any part of. So your slope is actually undefined. Your y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis, is none. And all you have is an x-intercept on this one, which is -5, 0. So then let's go over to our next one. And this one is just y equals a number. So no matter what, y always equals 4. So I'm going to mark y equals 4. Oh, but y equals 4 there, and y equals 4 there, and there, and there, and there. So basically, y equals number is a straight horizontal line at that number. Okay. So what does that mean? That means that, let me get a different color. That means that y equals -4 is our y-intercept. So that's, I'm sorry, is positive 4, is 0, 4. It's never going to cross the x-axis because it's horizontal. It's parallel to it. And its slope is Kyle is bored. He's just going back and forth with nothing to do. It also makes the top of the z for 0.